If someone asks me what's the number one predictor if you're going to succeed or fail in franchising, it's are you going to follow the model? And yeah, you can follow the model, but are you really following the model? In some of these businesses, just a minor adjustment can be the difference between a lot of profitability or a loss, right?
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning. This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening and or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with us for another episode of Walk in Victory. In our intro, we talk about our goal. So we're changing our theme, our tag, which is our tag is we will still sit you at the feet of the masters, which was our tag. But as I started to really reconcile and think about what does walk in victory mean, and sitting a person at the feet of a master is a great thing, but why are they there? So our goal is to build you from the inside out. Why from the inside out? Because if you can't see any building, and go back into my first business in construction, any building that you see erected came from a mind of someone. In the 70s and 80s, you can watch the structure of New York. The infrastructure that was built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There was one plan, so all of the buildings kind of matched that cookie cutter plan. So one architect came up with a plan and gave it to the city, and they all built these buildings. But it came from the architectural plan, came from the mind. Then the mind writes it out. And then you have somebody to actually build it out. So it came from within. And that's the way that you change your life. You don't change your life from the outside. You change your life from the inside. One, you got to change your mindset. I grew up meager beginnings, still struggle at times with imposter syndrome or whatever. But I remember growing up and not having anything to eat. If I don't eat, it's because I don't want to eat. I grew up in the city, and I used to always say, I don't need a car. I have a nice car. I have a 2-car garage. I have an acre of land. I never thought that in my wildest imaginations, listen to what I'm saying, in my wildest imaginations, I never saw that for me when I was a kid. As I got older, I realized that all things were possible because I built from the inside and then manifest itself out. So we want to build people mindset. And if you can change your mindset, you can accomplish anything. Today, we're going to talk about opportunities in franchising. Why is this important? Because someone is listening and you may have some money onto the side. You're like, I just don't know what to do. I got an inheritance, or I got some money and I just don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to. And one of the biggest problems that I've seen in my 49 years here on earth is that people get a good idea, but they don't really count the cost. They don't really, they think, oh man, I could start a barbershop, but the community may not need another barbershop. Oh man, I'm gonna start a laundromat. Everybody got to wash dirty clothes, but community may not need a laundromat. That's why we need experts. So we got the money. I'll give you a case in point, and then I'll bring in our guests. My great uncle hit the lotto for a couple of $1 million. He's doing really good. Sat down. I saw uncle right before he hit the lottery. He was retired. He had back issues, so he's out, retired. He was a military man. He was collecting his pension. And I went to his house. He's sitting on the couch. I said, Uncle, what's going on, man? He said, man, Ronnie, I can't call it. He said, my back is killing me. I can't hardly walk. And come to find out, right after I left, he hits the lotto. My niece is about 25, 26. My sister was pregnant at the time, so it was about 26 years ago. Saw uncle the next time. He had a gold earring. He was 6. He was retired. I just said that, right? He was retired. He had a gold earring in his ear. All these Cadillacs in the front yard. He was living it up, man. Wound up having another child. A few years later, started hearing rumblings that uncle was broke. That uncle can't be broke, are you? And I wound up preaching his funeral. And his last words to me when I saw him, he looked me in my eye. He had cancer and he was feeble and he could hardly talk. So you had to lean in to listen to what he was saying. He looked me in my eye and his last words to me, I never thought I would outlive the money. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. That was a great story. It reminded me of MC Hammer.
Yes, Hammer time. His entourage is so big. He never thought he would outlive the money. You know, in cross-referencing with MC Hammer, the guy who he sampled, Super Freak, Rick James.
Yeah.
Rick James said he never wanted his music to be sampled. And MC Hammer sampled the music without his permission. And Rick James was in a cab and he heard the doom, 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 doom. And he was like, oh, we back. He thinking that was his song. And it was, can't touch this. He's like, yo, who sampled my music? He was pissed off, but he was poor. He was broke at the time. He called his lawyer and the lawyer said, I told you I don't want my song, ain't no hip hop. This ain't real music. And he said, well, we just got a check for X amount of millions of dollars. He said, tell him to take all my songs.
I didn't know that story. That's cool.
Yeah, it was in his documentary. Yeah. So how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us. When we talk about opportunities and you're going to explain to the audience what it is that you do, you know, I want you to just dive into what I was saying financially. Like some people just run into money, they don't know what to do. And what is it that you do to help people who may be in that situation?
So look, I mean, what I can tell you is that people tend to underestimate how important a system is in business, right? So they think, hey, I start my own company. And I'm actually guilty of this myself, meaning how do I have a system? Because if you don't have a system, then you got to wear all these different hats. You've got to be the CEO, the CFO, the receptionist, all these different things. And when a franchise works great, it's a situation where you're actually able to be the one that can run a successful business with a great system in place already, kind of standing on the shoulders of giants already, with a great franchise brand. Also letting you know that not every brand is that way, right? So my role is to kind of really, for my candidates, to find the right franchise system for them.
I interviewed someone a couple of days ago in their niche market in franchising. They decided that restaurants and retails wasn't their thing. They wanted to do like cleaning, the house cleaning, like they point people in that direction, which is good because when we say franchise, it's such a broad list to choose from. Where do you find your niche at? Where do you get excited? What gets you excited about what industry of franchise gets you excited?
So a lot of people, when they think franchising, they think
Yeah.
McDonald's, French fries, owner operator in the back flipping burgers. I work with brands that are pre-screened in 75 different industries, and food's only one of those 75. And if you and I were talking before the pandemic, I would say lots of my placements were brick and mortar businesses, maybe a hair salon or a boutique fitness studio, right? Um, 80% back then, it's flipped. Now, 80% of my placements are non brick and mortar service businesses. I'm
Mm.
not saying that brick and mortar businesses are bad, right? Nothing against that. But for the right candidate, a service company where you don't have to pay a 10-year lease and have a guarantee, and you can get in for under $200,000 all in, there's an attraction to a business like that.
Yeah. Wow. So give me some ideas. We're talking about what type of ideas, and how has the industry shifted post pandemic?
So let's talk ideas. Let me start with a bad idea, right? So I have a brand. It's not in my inventory, but one of the most unique brands in franchising, NaRon, is one where literally it's called Goose Chasers, where you literally take dogs in your car and you go to golf courses and you chase geese away from the greens in the golf course. That's the franchise business. I'm not sure. I don't know much about it. It's just weird. I don't know much about that business, but that's a service business. Um, what I'm talking about, things that are related to non brick and mortar businesses, I like things that are essential, right? We call it the silver tsunami. Anything related to the senior community, I found that
Mm.
there's much more of an interest in home healthcare agencies. It's a need to have, not nice to have. The demographics are just looking more and more in favor of people that need help. I have an aging dad, right? So I can relate. And I just think that's a really interesting business that's not very expensive to get into. Also, kind of boring businesses, right? I mean, for me, painting is a really good business as well. I mean, as someone that owned an office cleaning master franchise for 8.5 years, the skill set to paint or the skill set to clean is different than finding jobs, right? And there's just so many different businesses out there, and such an imperfect market. And if you're there kind of taking these cleaning crews that are good at painting, but not good at bidding or finding jobs, I think there's an opportunity there for that business.
Yeah, my first business was construction, and we had an opportunity to do clean outs, a franchise where we was going to buy into the franchise, and then but we would have done clean outs, and the only thing that happened is where we were at demographically, it was another competitor. We was too close in radius, so we couldn't get in. What are some of the things that a person should be thinking if they're thinking about franchising? Like for me, that story, it rang true because we went through a whole lot of paperwork and a whole lot of conversation, only to find out that although we were in Queens and that other place was in Long Island, we were so close in proximity that it couldn't work. What are some of the things that people should consider?
So many different things, but I think the number one thing to consider, right, is okay, what's my why, right?
Mm.
Because people typically don't invest in a franchise unless there's just kind of overwhelming, reason for doing this, right? Is it because they hate their day job? Is it because they've gotten a lot of money from a lottery and they just want to diversify their money? Maybe they have like some sort of job in the energy industry. I'm here in Texas, right? Some people are literally working 2 or 3 weeks at a time in the Gulf of Mexico, and they're
Mm.
not able to see the family 3 weeks at a time. So maybe they just want more time with the family or more freedom, or maybe, there are all these different reasons. Unless you have a compelling why, then it's probably not a good fit for you to invest in something like this.
Mm. How long have you been in this industry? What you do? I know you said you had a franchise, but how long have you started? When was it that you started consulting?
So I've been in the industry for 14 years, 8.5 as a franchisee, right? I've had this role for 7.5 years, and it's been an amazing journey for me because I just love making these amazing matches. Most of the time, my candidates know that they want to invest in a business, right? But they don't know what's out there. They know McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, and just making this perfect match is really a very rewarding for me.
And that's why I wanted to say that, because when did you discover that the why is important?
From
When we
Look, I
start,
mean,
when anybody start out, everybody's excited and they say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. But when did you say, all right, I have to get to the why before we get to the where?
so I knew that before I started consulting, because I was exhibit A, right? When I started my business in 2010, I needed my why. And you talk about some sort of inner journey you had. I had a personal challenge when I first started my franchise brand in 2010. My wife gave birth to my twins early, and I was dealing with the loss of twins, right? Now all three of my daughters are healthy, and I'm really blessed, but like dealing with that and starting this business at the same time really kind of allowed me to focus on what my why was. And it was really important for me from an internal point of view, like what we said at the beginning, to really just kind of have this great business and to build this thing up. And that was my why. It was like to really, really provide for my family.
Take me back to that. And I don't want to harp on the
Sure.
the tragedy. How did that fuel you personally? How did that drive you to say, heck, this is now or never? Where most people would just quit or sit off to the side and make an excuse. What do you believe that was going on within you to make you stand firm and push forward?
That's such a great question. And kind of going back to that time, look, I mean, everyone has a grief period if there's some sort of challenge or whatever it is. But at some point, it was like, oh my gosh, this happened. This sucks, right? What now? Right? I mean, my parents literally invested money. They put a mortgage on their house to make sure that my business would work,
Mm,
right? And I was a newlywed. If this thing
mm.
didn't work out, the pressure, the stress between my wife and I, if I would somehow have to make my parents whole to repay a mortgage. I mean, just I think kind of setting these rails at the beginning, like just this thing cannot fail. It's just I don't care what happens, like burn the bridges, right? So failure wasn't even an option in my mindset.
What were you doing before you got into your first franchise?
So a bunch of things. I still am a real estate investor.
Okay,
I own some real estate investments in the Houston, Texas area, and
good
also
market.
in a serial. I'm sorry.
Good market.
Yeah, very good market, and
Yeah.
also, hey, I started some businesses before. I had a technology and IT firm that I owned before that.
Okay, so you already had the entrepreneurial bug. It's not like you was
Yeah,
moving in from a corporate space, or I'm fed up with my boss, I'm gonna fire my boss. You didn't come in at it disgruntled. No, and that's important, because what happens from you help you consult people. What happens when a person comes in disgruntled, or feeling as if I got to prove my point? What happens with the fade out, the fizzle? Some people make it, yeah, but then some people just fade, right? From your
not
expertise.
not everyone succeeds. That's the hardest thing about my business, right? So the studies say that in small business in general, only 10% succeed, right?
Mm,
In the franchising world, some people say 90% of franchises succeed. That's too high, right? I mean, it's more than 50%, but it's not 90%. But it's just really hard for me because you make this match and you have no control about whether or not something's going to work out or not. And I'd say the number one reason why things work or not is whether or not people have that X factor, meaning are they going to do everything in their power to make sure this thing works, right? Are they going to go the extra mile? They're going to work, burn the lamp on the weekend? Are they going to become best friends with the operations people at the franchise brand? Are they going to have that same mindset that I had when I started my business, that no matter what happens, this thing's going to work out and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure it works out?
those are key ingredients. Why is it important to become best friends or buddies with the franchise, uh, the top level of the organization?
Great question. Look, um, in my opinion, if someone asks me what's the number one predictor if you're going to succeed or fail in franchising, it's are you going to follow the model? And yeah, you can follow the model, but are you really following the model? And I'm talking about like to the T, because in some of these businesses, just a minor adjustment can be the difference between a lot of profitability or a loss, right? And so there are limited resources at the head office. And so if you become their best friend, they're going to take their limited time and spend it on you. If you go above and beyond and speak to another franchisee in Queens or the Bronx that's a high performer, and you kind of become their mentee and they take special interest in you, they're going to give you that secret sauce, whatever it might be, that would allow you to kind of improve your performance.
I over the summer, McDonald's was having a problem because their owners are independent business owners. Oh, they're part of the franchise, but they're independent. And the community was complaining that McDonald's prices had went too high after the pandemic. And they had removed the dollar menu, they removed value meals and all that other stuff, and they was going back to the owner saying, listen, we need to bring these things back, but they can't force them to bring it back. And this is what you're saying. And some of the owners are like, well, we don't want to but they had to bring it back because everyone else was doing it. And everyone else was, and all the customers were complaining about the pricing. When you see a situation, I'm giving an example, but situations like that, where some of the independent owners are not listening to the model of the top tier levels, that's like a red flag, right? They've been in it for a long time, and if they make a suggestion.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because this is throughout the process with my candidates, I teach them to do due diligence, right? And one of the most important pieces of due diligence is to talk to existing franchisees and to see how things are going. Because look, if you're investigating a franchise, you're going to be talking to amazing salespeople. But at the end of the day, unless you talk to people like you that are in the franchise that don't care if you buy or not, then that are in a market like yours, and you hear what they have to say, especially ones that are doing really, really well, then you can find out more about if it's a good fit for you or not.
How do you find that network? How do you know that there was a Dunkin' Donuts that came into the community? And I remember I was so excited when the Dunkin' Donuts came. I was like, oh man, Dunkin' Donuts. And it was coupled with the Baskin Robbins. And when you would go and they didn't have this. I ordered a donut early in the morning, and the donut was burnt. Like, what the hell is going on back there?
Uh-oh.
How do you know what if when you're sitting in the room with a person and you're doing your evaluation, if this guy is this girl, this family, they're going to be great franchise owners? Is it a gut feeling, or is it something that you can sense or smell or taste? Your spidey senses go up.
So great question. It comes back to motivation and a why, right? I think that's the number one indicator. They've got to have some sort of business acumen or hustlers, right?
Yeah.
Or just have some, but like, if they have resources and they have a why and they have some sort of business savvy, if I give them the right brand, they're going to work out, right? That's what I'm looking for. That's the secret sauce.
Do usually people come in saying, hey, Adam, I want to be in a McDonald's. I want to own a McDonald's. Do they come in knowing, or do they come, do you find that most people come in open-minded?
Most people come in open-minded, right? They might have some preconceived notions or things that they're kind of interested in, but my service works best when people kind of think of this investigation as being a whiteboard or a blank slate, where together we can kind of find these perfect fits for them. And I'm exhibit A again, because I didn't come into this process myself saying I want to own an office cleaning master franchise, but it really fit what I was looking for.
So as you're investigating them and they're investigating their opportunities, what are some of the things that you look at besides the fact that they're white or they have some kind of entrepreneurial mindset, what are some of the other things that are must-haves in order to make a good franchisee?
Well, they've got to be a cultural fit for the franchise brand, right? Chick-fil-A is notorious for only accepting certain types of people to be Chick-fil-A owners, right? They have to kind of fit into that culture, whatever it might be, the brand. Other things that I think are important, obviously, are resources, meaning if someone can afford the brand, but also just kind of things related to sales skills or what they see their day to day. There are different characteristics of different brands. Some are more owner operator, meaning the idea is that you're going to be in that office from 8 until 6, Monday through Friday, even more so at the very beginning, just because you got to kind of make it work. And others have a more of a manager run model where you can run it with managers and be semi-absentee. So these are all different factors for making that correct fit.
Yeah, because some people may say, "Hey, I want to franchise out, and I want to kind of be hands off. So I want to hire a general manager or hire, mid management, and I'll deal with them. I don't want to deal with the day-to-day operation." Um, Running a business, period, can be challenging. What's the difference, good or bad, about running a franchise?
Well, let's compare and contrast of running a business on your own versus a franchise, right? One of the disadvantages of franchising, even if it's the most amazing brand, is you got to pay royalty fees and franchise fees, right? And a lot of people don't like paying that over the course of the month or the year. One of the benefits, if it's a good franchise brand, is that it would potentially allow you to scale a business and to have a playbook. And someone like myself, who's a serial entrepreneur, but not great at creating processes, the industry's been really good to me because it's almost allowing me to outsource my operations, right? Or I have a situation where I'm riding my bicycle, but I have training wheels whenever I'm starting my business. And that's a powerful situation to be in.
7 years ago, you went from being successful in your personal franchise. What clicked inside of you to say, "Hey, you know what? There's a market, there's a space for me in the industry where I can become a matchmaker."
So NaRon, I wish I had some sort of like epiphany or aha moment. Just kind of stumbled into this. The franchisee that owned the San Antonio, Austin, and Albuquerque markets decided to give me an unsolicited offer for my market. And it was a great offer. And business was going great. And kind of, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. Started doing this part-time, just realized I really liked it. Like, I love the fact that really getting to know deeply these people, intellectually curious, having all these different brands in 75 industries, where that actual pre-screened brands that I have changes on a regular basis, because once someone sells a market, it's no longer available. So just intellectually curious to kind of see what the trends are in franchising on a regular basis, and just love this whole matchmaking thing that I've been doing. It's the best career decision I've ever made.
So when he offers it to you, did you understand what you was doing or what you was about to step into?
So when he offered to invest, to go ahead to buy out my company in Houston, I had no idea what was next. This just kind of happened. I just stumbled into this full time and realized that this is the right fit for me.
How was the transition?
From being an actual franchisee to actually being a connector.
Mm-hmm.
The first day or second day, so I went from my office cleaning office, right, to a WeWork, right, where in my office cleaning office, we had like 30 franchisees cleaning 300 buildings and a staff of 4 or 5. And then all of a sudden I go to WeWork, right, and I'm just me. And I don't have all these different offices and everything else. And it was like, wow, this is really a weird situation to be in. I sold my company. It was just kind of a weird moment. But it became, it was a really hard transition, kind of just to kind of figure out what's next. But I kind of just embraced it, right? I've been doing it part-time, but to do it full-time, creating a system for this as well, and really putting my efforts into it's been a really, really good situation for me.
When did you really see that, day one, day two, but when did you really see that, oh man, I'm onto something here. This is going to be a great thing. how long did it take you to really feel comfortable and confident in the fact that, because I see in behind you, you got believe, right? When did you
Ted
start believing?
Lasso.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso. Look, started this company in 2017, right? Sold my business in 2018. Probably not until like 2019, right? 1 year
Mm,
of doing this full time. I was really blessed to have a really very big placement in 2019. Someone decided to invest in a lot of fitness related studios. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people trust me enough to make these huge life investments. And um, I'm like, this is a career. This is a good situation to be in. I think that's kind of where the epiphany happened.
yeah, because it's a confidence thing too, right? Um, selling is one thing, but then when you get that sell, you get a bunch of no's, and you got to go through a bunch of no's before you get the yeses and all of that cliche stuff. But it chips away at the inner confidence, right? Like, dang, what am I doing wrong? Like, no,
Look, absolutely. But I don't think of myself as a salesperson. I've had sales related jobs in the past. There is a sales component, right? In that trying to find people that want to invest in franchises, right? That's part of my role to find these people. It's marketing, I would say, more than sales. But yeah, I mean, you talk about imposter syndrome before, like you got to be in a situation where people are comfortable. In it's all about what your reputation is, right? I mean, and that's a really big piece, and you have to trust yourself as well.
when did you know that you were good now? Because you moved from not knowing that I got this one thing, because you know the Eagles won a Super Bowl, right? So, but when did you know that you were good?
Well, look, it's interesting because I actually think that it's healthy to not have too high of an opinion of yourself. Every year, um, my investors every year, my candidates every year decide to invest in about 100 territories, right?
Mm.
And so every year, my number starts at zero, right? So I have to prove myself from January 1st on every year. And if I got too comfortable, I might not get to that 100 number.
All right, Mr. Bill Parcells, you are what your numbers say you are.
That's right. That's true. We're going to put a Giants reference in, but yes, my record is only my record for what it was recently.
Yes, yeah, and that's healthy, right? Because
Absolutely.
you don't want to go in reading your press clippings. You don't get paid for
No,
what you did yesterday.
no, absolutely not. I mean, it's always kind of striving. It's my business is not a recurring revenue model.
Yeah, yeah, and you can't go home and say, honey, I only did 50. It's just like, what happened?
Kids are expensive.
You got to pay off. Uh, if you had one thing that you would say to someone who's considering getting into franchising, what would that be?
Just to give me a ring, right? It's a free 15 minutes. I promise if I don't think you're a fit for franchising, I'll let you know. There are two ways to kind of get a hold of me. It's either on franchiseadam.com, where you can book a free 15-minute chat. And then you've got franchisecoach.net.
And everyone who's listening, all of those links are in the description. Is on our website too. Adam Goldman has his own landing page, so you can go there and get that clarity call. Don't play with the man. Like, if you only got $2.50 in your account, don't call.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because typically we're looking for people that have at least $50,000 in cash and $150,000 in net worth. There is financing available, but you're right. If you have like the total investment you want to invest is 10K, I don't have anything that's like that. I mean, the minimum, including loans or whatever it might be, is 125K. And look, people all the time have friends or family members that are financial partners that could help them out. But you're right. If you need to have the financial resources to make this work.
Yeah. I mean, that we're here, and with victory walks and victory mindset, but you can get to that level once you know the criteria and you set your mind towards this is what I really want to do. Then you start walking your path towards that financial goal, right? And then you
Yep.
call, but don't, you have enough information here. You ascertained enough information here where you know where you need to be. And for those of you who are ready, his information is in the bio. My last question for you, sir. What books have influenced you? What books are you reading, or would you recommend if you was talking to someone and you say, hey man, this would be a great book? It could be fiction or nonfiction.
I love books related to business in general, right? I'm a huge business book person. And the book that really kind of it just comes to mind, I was talking about this with my friend yesterday. He is a business owner and he was trying to figure out different, how would I put it? Just which CEOs and how his C-suite should look like. I love the Collins book about good to great. And the the thing that's interesting there is thinking about your kind of corporate structure as being a bus and putting the right people in the right seat, right? So, I mean, I just think that's just a fascinating idea. You might have someone great, but they might not be in the right role as they should be, and maybe they need to be in a different seat, or should they even be on the bus to begin with? One of the hardest things for companies, and I've had this in the past, is you have someone that's a great performer, but they probably don't fit into your culture. And just to get rid of someone like that is so hard because they're important, but they're not a cultural fit. And when you rip that Band-Aid off, that really might be something that's stopping you from growing the way that you should. And I've been guilty of not uh, firing people quickly enough in the past.
It's funny because, and I'm going to use a sports reference, and then we thank you guys for listening to our but it's funny because you see that often in sports where a guy, and I'm going to use my Knicks as an example, where most people are judging the Julius Randle trade. They lost DiVincenzo, who was a good locker room guy. But Julius Randle, the ball stopped. He would get mad. He's like, just when he's down, he don't play defense. Then you bring in Anthony Towns, who is claimed to be soft. He's a little softer, but you watch the ball movement, the spacing on the floor. It's not clicking into wins yet, but you can see that as they gel and adjust, the heaviness is out of the room. And sometimes you can have that guy on the bus that's just heavy. When I'm down, I'm down. When I'm up, I'm up. I'm up, I'm jovial. Everybody's excited. When I'm down, I sink the whole team. What's wrong? Nothing. Right? Like, who wants to be? Yeah, you give me 24 points, but is it worth it?
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, that's a great analogy. Yeah, and that's what I do with my life, right? Where I'm really trying to make this cultural fit, because this might be the most amazing franchise brand in the world, but is it the right one for you? And I'm
Yeah.
really trying to find my candidates and to make sure that I know them so I can make this right match for them from a cultural perspective as well.
And you're doing an amazing job, and I really appreciate what it is that you provide and to the world. And I thank you for taking the time out and sitting down with me as we discuss this very key and important thing, because someone right now can change their life. How can franchising change someone's life?
Oh my gosh. I mean, how could it not change your life? I mean, I think the number one reason why people decide to do this is because I want a better life for my kids, or
Mhm.
I want to spend more time with my family, or I hate my boss, right? Or I want to go on trips, or whatever that might be. I mean, it's just about time, right? I mean, because we have such a limited amount of time. We spend so much of our time at our job or doing things related to our pursuits. And if you like what you're doing throughout your work life, then that can make such an impact on the rest of your life as well.
Well, there you have it, everybody. We build you from the inside out, but we also sit you at the feet of the masters, and you just got a masterclass in franchising from Adam Goldman. As we said previously, all of the information is in the links in the description. or on our website, walkinvictory.me. Also, I need you guys to follow me on Instagram, Walking Victory. We're at 400, close to 400. I need to get to 1,000 on Instagram. So, and I don't beg for stuff like that, but just follow me if you can. And enjoy the rest of your day. Don't walk with your head down. Don't walk making excuses. Don't walk allowing your tragedies to dictate your future, but use that as fuel, as Adam did. Risk it all. Mother said, honey, we got to put the house on the line because Adam's going to do it. And he brought that rabbit home. You may have dogs and don't know what to do with the dogs. He just gave you an idea of how you can turn your dogs into a victory walk. Go into the tennis court, go into the golf course and run them this way. But most of all, walk in victory. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.